Kenny, this is a really good time to catch you. We're at Epsom, just after breakfast with the stars, and you've just flown in ahead of a massive day in the Oaks with Daddy's Little Darling. Just tell us about how this has all come about.
You know, I first came here years back and was able to walk the course with Nick Chain and Stephen Wallace in 2003. And, you know, I've always said if I had a horse good enough and I thought we fit the race and things came together, I'd love to bring a horse for either the Derby or the Oaks. I actually had a colt for the Derby that I advised the owner to run, and he didn't want to. And in this case, you know, Mrs. Polk, the owner of Daddy's Little Darling, said, if you think we'd run well, then let's go. And so we're putting it together.
It's a moment of history, though. Does that sort of, does it make you proud? What's the sort of feeling? Or are you just here with a filly who really hasn't an entitled chance to be here?
You know, my job's to win horse races. This is a filly that needs to win a Group 1. She's been second in 3 Group 1s, which is a little frustrating for us. And the opportunity for Group 1s for 3-year-old fillies is limited in the U.S. right now. There isn't a race that suits her until mid-August, and that's the Alabama at Saratoga. But in the meantime, she's doing well, and she's trained over my gallops in Kentucky, and you know, we need to win a Group 1 with her, and I think it's a good spot, and I think it's going to be certainly a bit of a learning curve, but she's up to the task. It's a very good filly, and she's been really doing well lately.
And just tell us a little bit more about her, because as you said, she's extremely talented. She was second in the Kentucky Oaks last time. How's she done since then?
Well, she's done great. We typically take her back over to my farm over in Lexington post-race or after each race, and she'll go over there and she canters over the grass courses, and I've got a real uphill, downhill. Actually, it's more undulating than here at Epsom or even Ascot. So she's used to all that, and she seems like a filly that's got a real strong gallop up to her finish. I don't think 1.5 miles is going to be a problem, and she came out of the Kentucky Oaks really strong, so you know, you run them when they're good.
And how does the uniqueness of this race course and the 1.5 miles round here, how do you think she'll fare on it?
I'm not concerned about it at all. I think she'll handle it well. My course is not as long, and of course it's almost impossible to replicate this ground because it's so interesting. But none of the fillies in the race are going to have an opportunity to train over or race over anything like this. So these kind of races are wide open. It's a matter if you got a horse extremely talented, and you've got to have things come together, and timing's everything. And seems like it all is coming together for us.
Do you think the sort of British racing style will suit her as well?
You know what? I've had a lot of luck with horses going 1.5 miles. You know, can you get her to stay a little longer than she has been? I think she will. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Matter of fact, I think she'll even improve a bit.
What do you rate how do you assess her form relative to the best of the British and Irish that are running, do you think?
You really can't hold those two together. It's impossible. You know, it's in the U.S. we run, you know, dirt races. We're going to go 1 1/16 maximum. You get 1 1/8 race. The only 1 1/8 race she's run in is the Kentucky Oaks, so we don't get any further choices than those distances. And we've run her at Belmont Park, we run her at Santa Anita. She's run in Churchill Downs. She's run at Keeneland, a lot of the top racetracks in Group 1 company, and she's been right there for every picture. So there's nothing that says she can't do it over another course.
And when she's here, she's not arrived just yet, but when she arrives, where will she be based?
She'll be based here at Epsom at Jim Boyle's yard. And you know, I chose to do that because she's a filly that needs to familiarize herself with the place. She doesn't ship in the day of the race and do well. She wants to know what's home, and we're going to have an opportunity to school her around here. She'll make a few loops around this paddock, probably every day going into the race, to give her an idea of where we're at, and we're hopeful that she handles all that well, which I'm sure she will, and it's our job to make sure she's prepared.
And part of the deal here is that horses have to handle the atmosphere. There's a huge crowd, but having run where she's run, on the big stages that she's run at, she should be pretty well mentally able.
She handled the Breeders' Cup without any problem. She handled the Kentucky Oaks without a problem. She did have what I would call a nervous spell in Tampa, but we took her into Tampa right on top of the race, and she didn't have a chance to school. And here we're going to be here in plenty of time, about 10 days in advance, and she'll have plenty of time to familiarize herself.
And just talk about yourself. A pioneering trainer, you love to go out to Dubai, and you've had horses here, of course. You had a runner in the King George a few years ago, a runner at Royal Ascot. What is it that you love about travelling horses?
Well, I just think horse racing is just wonderful fun, you know, for people that don't know much about it. It's a great game, and my job's to win races at a high level, and I don't care where they are. I'll go for them.
Do you think she'll win this one?
I do.
Do you?
Yes, I do. We didn't come for the pims and the parties.
So the American filly, Daddy's Little Darling's coming over, but you've enlisted the French jockey Olivier Pellier, who of course won the Derby here, 1998 I think it was, on High Rise. How did that arrangement come about?
We had mutual friends in the Head family. Christophe Clement I reached out to about him, and he said, don't even hesitate. If you can get him, use him. And the filly was ridden in her last start by Julien Leperoux, and I think, perhaps a French rider in the style, but I really wanted to use a rider that was familiar with Epsom and understood the uphill and the turns and all the details, and was more concerned about that than I was them knowing the filly. The filly's relatively easy. The course is difficult. And so I know that when you leave the starting gate, you have to know the angles and the turns, and you couldn't do that.
They go hard uphill to begin with.
Yeah, and you couldn't do that with an American jockey. You couldn't expect them to have any idea what they were supposed to do here.
And you've not met Olivier before, so
No.
will he get a chance to sit on the filly before the big day?
Yeah, he's going to get on her Friday, and he'll get a chance to give her a little test drive, and I have no doubt he'll get along with her fine. She's easy.